Hi, I'm Scott Jensen, former Assembly Speaker.
And I'm Chuck Chvala, former Senate Majority Leader.
And we're the insiders. So the insiders question today, Chuck, is Wisconsin going to move to a mail-in ballot for the August and November elections?
I noticed that the city of Milwaukee has already ordered it for their community, and I think it makes a lot of sense. Given the COVID thing, I think we're seeing it, but also I think people are realizing that if more people vote by mail, then we won't have as many problems with long lines. And of course, in this environment, we won't have as many illness and potentially deaths. I think after the hazmat suit that looked like Scott or Robin Voss was wearing, I think that people realize that this is a time to really take some decisive action to make voting easier and safer for Wisconsin citizens.
Well, I don't think we're going to move to an actual mail-in election like some states have, in particular Oregon. But our state elections commission on a bipartisan basis said that it took those other states 2 years to move to a completely mail-in election. So I don't think we're going to do that. I think communities will encourage people to vote by absentee. Lots of communities are going to be sending out applications for people to get an absentee ballot. That makes sense. That's what we did in the April election, and 1.3 million people requested a ballot and 1.1 million people cast their ballot that way. I think we'll see that again. But what we shouldn't do is end the in-person voting, because it has a differential impact on particular groups of voters. I'm convinced in Milwaukee that the decision by the city of Milwaukee to end the early voting on the north side and the south side, but leave it going downtown, meant that minority voters were less likely to have an opportunity to cast an in-person ballot early on. And also, when they collapsed the number of polling places from 180 to 5, that differentially impacted the minority community. And I really believe that it impacted the elections. The Democrats, excuse me, not the Democrats, African Americans were set to win, I think, more offices than they ended up winning in that election, but for the depression of the turnout in those communities.
I don't disagree with Scott. With you, Scott. I think you're right that we should. My view is we should have every angle available for people to cast a ballot. We should make voting so easy. My view is that I would even be almost to the point of saying we should have a constitutional amendment that you have a right to vote within 5 minutes. But I think if we sent every voter a ballot for them to be able to return, I think that would go a long way towards solving the problem. But we should also have the opportunity for people to vote in person and have as many opportunities as possible, as many polling places as possible. To be honest with you, I'm always surprised that Democrats, who for the most part have control in cities, actually struggle with this at times. I think that Mary Beth Witzel, the clerk in Madison, does an amazing job of getting these things ready to go. And I would like to see that done more. But I think one way to make it easier for people, especially people who may have health issues, whether it's COVID or not, is to have everybody have a ballot. And if you mail it in, you get a witness, you mail it in, we're good to go. I think it would be great. I agree with Scott, though. I don't want a totally mail-in system, because there are people who do want to show up and they enjoy the opportunity to go and see themselves casting this ballot and seeing the people recognize that they've done it. I think that's a good thing. But I would not have a problem at all if 95% of our votes in Wisconsin were cast with absentee ballots.
We're in agreement for once. See you next week.